Coming up on Locked On Bearcats, Luke Fickell and the Cincinnati Bearcats have reached a contract extension. What it means, plus the Bearcats lost to Memphis last night on the Hardwood. It's all coming up on today's episode of Locked On Bearcats.
You are Locked On Bearcats, your daily podcast on the Cincinnati Bearcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you as always for making Locked On Bearcats your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Alex Frank here with you. Let me try that again. Thank you as always for making Locked On Bearcats your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Alex Frank, welcoming you to today's show. All right, the big news that has gone down recently in the Bearcats, Luke Fickell going into his sixth season as the head coach of the Bearcats football program has agreed to a new contract extension, $5 million per year, and the deal runs through 2028. This is great news. This is important because as UC transitions into the Big 12, as they transition into the Big 12, they want to make sure that Luke Fickell is going to be around. And $5 million per year is getting up there with all the Big 12 coaches. He's making more than some Big 12 coaches per year annually. This is what is going to help Cincinnati when they move to a Power 5 conference. When their head coach is getting Power 5 money, when the assistant pool is greater, this is what's going to help. And there were some things that Luke Fickell talked about in a Q&A that he did with Justin Williams of The Athletic, and he said some things in it that were really interesting. I want to run through some of them. I was having a conversation with someone at work yesterday, and they told me that, Luke Fickell's going to end up at Ohio State eventually, right? And I mean, I understand why he thought that, why they thought that, because Luke Fickell's from Ohio State. It's his alma mater. There's only one job now that I think he's going to take if it's open, and that is Ohio State. Notre Dame's already been taken. He's not going to Michigan. He did not go to Michigan State. So what are you left with? You're left with Ohio State's the only job I think he would take, and rightfully so. But the truth is, I don't know when Ryan Day is leaving Ohio State. And that's why I think Luke Fickell's going to be here for a long time. And that's why the university, John Cunningham, the athletic director of athletics, and Fickell worked out a contract extension. So some things that he said, and you read this article, and you really just understand. You understand why he is such a great head coach. Luke Fickell says all the right things in press conferences. He deflects attention and praise off of himself, off of the program, and keeps focus on the bigger picture at hand. And that's great. But in this interview, what he did a really good job of doing is he kind of laid it all out there. Was a little more personal than you read about him or hear him in a post-game press conference or a weekly press conference. And that's what made this interview so great. Very candid. Just a simple Q&A that Justin did with him. So Luke Fickell really sold how proud he is of the program and where it's at. And went back to his first year here and what he didn't do that I found interesting. And then you think about how the program has progressed when he realized that this program needed some upgrades, needed help to get to where they ultimately wanted to go, which was the college football playoff last year, and what they still hope to do, and how he recognizes that, what winning can do for a community what it can do for a university, what it can do for a city. You saw the post the Bearcats Prime posted of Desmond Ridder and Joe Burrow, that this is now a football city. This football season in Cincinnati is one of the most memorable seasons that I've experienced, and I'm sure for a lot of you that you've experienced. So, just I'll start it off. One of the things I found interesting was that Luke Fickell talked about how he spends most of his time, or how he spends time in the quarterback room. And this quote was really interesting. He said, in quote, "I always think the quarterback and head coach need to be on the same page with a lot of things. Not that I'm calling the play, but just in how we handle a lot of things. You got to have some type of relationship to have that balance. And at least if you're in their meetings, they feel like maybe he cares about the offensive guys. Not that they would think I didn't, but I know I'm a defensive guy. They might think I only care if the team wins in practice or whatever it is." So it was twofold: build a relationship with those guys, but also to learn and know more about what's going on offensively in terms of what we're doing and how people are attacking us, unquote. And that's so great, because it is so important for the quarterback and head coach to have a relationship. Look at Josh Allen and Sean McDermott with the Buffalo Bills. Sean McDermott is a defensive-minded head coach, and yet the Bills had one of the best offenses in the entire NFL this year, and Josh Allen is a top 5 quarterback, because McDermott and Allen have a solid relationship. The quarterback is the head coach on the field. Desmond Ridder was so good, and he had matured so much that he interned with the coaching staff at one point in his career. He was sitting in on Sunday meetings. He had a very large say in what went into the game plan. And you look at the relationship that he and Luke Fickell foster. If the relationship between the head coach and the quarterback are not there, then teams, I don't think, will be successful. Tom Brady and Bill Belichick had their differences for 20 years. They won 6 championships. Luke Fickell understood that he's a defensive guy, but if he only focused on defense, the offense may have fallen behind. So this was a really good forum and interview and a platform for Luke Fickell to really kind of, lay it all out there and, really show why he's such a great head coach. He understands that he's not coaching a particular position or side of the ball like he was at Ohio State. He mentioned that in the interview. He's a head coach, and there are certain things as a head coach you have to do in the grander picture of things, the bigger picture of things, as opposed to just being focused on one side of the ball or one particular position. That's why it's so hard being a head coach. He wanted to know what was going on offensively. And he had a very large, and he did. He really did. That's why Desmond Ridder was so successful. And whoever the quarterback is in week 1 of this year, whether it's Evan Prater, whether it's Ben Bryant, and wherever you see go, and any quarterback that comes through this program the next 5 to 10 years, they know they're going to have a great relationship with the head coach despite him being defensive minded. More on Luke Fickell and how he views the city of Cincinnati and how he's fortunate to be here and how much he thinks about that with his kids being here, and what he did not do in his first season and what he hopes to do now. We'll get to all of that next. Sorry about that, here on Locked On Bearcats. But first, I got to tell you about the time of year that I've pretty much given up on all of my New Year's resolutions, but not this year, because I'm going to stick to it by eating right thanks to Built Bar. Because Built Bars almost feel like it's not really a resolution. I enjoy eating them, and you will too. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. 100% real chocolate. They only contain 130 calories and only 4 grams of sugar and net carbs each, plus 17 grams of protein. You compare that to a candy bar, which usually has around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. At Built Bar, they're all about the taste. They make it taste delicious first, then figure out how to make it healthy. And I don't know how, but they pull it off every time. So what you can do is go to Built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Thanks for making Locked On Bearcats your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Alex Frank here with you on a Wednesday, February 16th of 2022. Cincinnati falling on the hardwood last night to Memphis, 81-74. We'll get to a recap of the game in segment 3. Definitely proud of the way the Bearcats fought, but they just fell way behind, again, too early in the game. Valiant effort, just too much to overcome in the end. So, the bigger news here is Luke Fickell getting a contract extension. And, I mean, this is fantastic. It is so fantastic. Because now he's getting paid $5 million. This is Power 5 money. He was getting paid $3 million a year prior to that. I just got an alert on my phone at the time of recording this. My good friend Jeff Carr from Locked On Reds. The headline for his show tomorrow says, I can pull it up for you. MLB and the players are both hurting the game with their lack of urgency. That could be interesting. I was talking to Jeff yesterday, actually. He's not very hopeful that the season is going to start on time, which would be a darn shame if it didn't. Anyway, Luke Fickell is making $3 million a year. And that was fine. But it still felt like Cincinnati was still in, that group of 5, whatever you call it, muck. I don't want to say purgatory because the Bearcats became the first group of 5 team to make the college football playoff. And because of that, because they're going to the Big 12, hopefully by 2023, he needed Power 5 money. And he got it. $5 million a year. And the coaching cycles that we all thought could lure him to those schools. Michigan State, Notre Dame, USC even. USC was never going to happen. They've all got their head coaches. And Ryan Day is staying at Ohio State for the foreseeable future. Jim Harbaugh staying in Michigan. Luke Fickell would never go there anyway. James Franklin's at Penn State. Would Luke Fickell really want to go to Penn State? So the Bearcats know they're going to have him around. And they just gave him Power 5 money. But I want to talk about some things Luke Fickell mentioned in this interview, that this Q&A he did with Justin. Number one, he didn't ask any member of the administration for help during the first year. And I think it's so easy for a head coach, rather, if his first season's not going well, to ask administration for help. I would if I was in that situation. But him not asking for help was, it set himself up for when the Bearcats were really good. And he said after he woke up on January 2nd of last year, after the Peach Bowl, when he woke up that morning, he knew that they needed a renovated locker room. This team needed an indoor practice facility. They needed to make sure that they had every opportunity to get to where they wanted to go. They got a renovated locker room last year. They're going to get an indoor practice facility at Shakely. Things are really looking good for this program right now. There was that. He talked about how the contract extension was brought up last year during the season, right around the middle of the season, and Luke Fickell wouldn't deal with it. He didn't open the contract that John Cunningham gave him. He was focused on that season and getting that team to the college football playoff. That's who you want in a head coach. He's not distracting himself. Luke Fickell used a phrase last year that really told you what kind of head coach he is. And really what kind of man he is. When the Notre Dame job was swirling the week leading up to the conference championship game, Luke Fickell talked about how that he's, trying to keep a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds, dealing with a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds, keeping them focused, making it about the players, the kids, the team, not anything that is going on with him. Luke Fickell understands what this job is about. Luke Fickell understands loyalty. And I do think that first season kind of humbled him in a way. That might be a topic for another day. How the first season really humbled Luke Fickell, kept him focused on what's most important, providing making sure the players are in the best position to win games every year. That's what Luke Fickell is doing. He's not focused on the next step. If he were, he would have left after year 2. Excuse me. So there were some other things he mentioned yesterday. Where's another? There's so many things he said that just were fantastic. Yeah, when talking about other jobs, he said, but what is really the right thing to do? Because all I really care about are those 18 and 22-year-olds and how it affects them. It's not a big deal how it affects me. What matters is those guys. I don't know what the exact best way of dealing with that stuff is. And yeah, he doesn't because he's never done it before, because he's all about loyalty. He has core values. When you see him talking about the quarterback and the head coach, when you hear him talk about, here's a question: do you ever think about it in the same sense that you live here, your kids go to school here, beyond even the university scope? He said, I do. And I don't know if I ever really realized this, but I'll be honest, Larry Sheekley has the best line when he talks with the boosters and donors and people like myself. He says, and quote, look, a lot of these coaches, ADs, they're here for whatever amount of time, but we're here for life. This is where we live. This is our home. We want the University of Cincinnati to be part of the community, part of the city. So we have to take a different interest in quote. And that kind of hit me. Yeah, I'm here running this as a head coach, but I think there can be something different. Even if you leave at some point, if you always had a plan for what is the best for the program, I think we can continue to do that, to be a part of the community and city. I don't know what impact it has. I really don't, but I hope it can and will continue to have a greater impact on our entire community, end quote. What a great answer that is. How many times did you hear the word community? How many times did you hear impact? Him talking about bigger picture things. Luke Fickell, his first 5 seasons was so laser focused on what he was doing, building the program, and now he's taking the time, I think, to realize the impact that what he has done has on this community and city. So you have a head coach who is going to grind away and put his team in the best position to win every week, but now you have a head coach with some perspective. Now you have a head coach who understands what this program has done, what this program is doing, and where he wants this program to go. That's a head coach that you want leading your program. And understanding, the importance of the city. He mentioned, with the Bengals winning, how many people you see around the city wearing Bengals gear. Winning can do so much for a city. It really can. And that's what this community has done. If you're a graduating senior this year, you did not see the Bearcats lose a game at home in your career. In your college career, you did not see a losing home game at Nippert Stadium. That's not something a lot of graduating classes can say at any school, for that matter. We'll get to some men's basketball here next. More Luke Fickell talk throughout the week. Bearcats losing a heartbreaker last night to Memphis. It is looking very, very dire for the Bearcats. And we'll get to all of that here next on Locked On Bearcats. But first, I got to tell you about betonline.net, because football might be over for the season, but basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. And from all the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, betonline.net is the number one spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, boxing, UFC, odds, right to the Olympic coverage and information. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Once again, thank you for making Locked On Bearcats your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Alex Frank here with you on this Wednesday. The Bearcats last night, another close one with Memphis, but they dropped the game 81-74. They fall to 16-9 overall, 6-6. In the American Athletic Conference, looking more and more likely that they will have to win 4 games to win the conference tournament, which right now is looking like their only way they will get into the NCAA tournament if they get in at all. Memphis goes to 15-8. They're 9-4 in the AAC. I mean, they're really playing well. They are playing very, very well right now. They've won 5 straight games, and they have a chance to give Houston a run for their money in the tournament. So, Jeremiah Davenport led all Bearcats in scoring with 20 points. He also had 11 rebounds, 5 offensive, 6 defensive. He was 8 for 13 from the floor, 31 minutes. David DeJulius had his streak of 3 straight 20-point games snapped. He chipped in 13, 5 of 10 from the field, 4 rebounds, 31 minutes to play. Micah Adams-Woods with 12 points. Mike Saunders Jr. with 10 off the bench. Odio Guama, who started tonight, he had 5 points. And John Newman III had 3 for Cincinnati. The Bearcats, not a very good shooting night from the field, just 23 of 64 overall. That's 36%. They were 7 of 29 from 3. They were 21 of 28 from the line. They had only 10 assists. 9 came in the second half. They had 11 turnovers, 26 points in the paint, 6 fast break points, 21 second chance points. For Memphis, I mean, they had 5 players in double figures. 3 of them were starters. Landers Nolly the second with 13, Jalen Duran with 13, and then Lester Quinones with 12. They had Tyler Harris and Josh Minot with 15 and 10 off the bench. 9 assists for Alex Lomax. That was half of Memphis' 18 total. They also had 12 turnovers. DeAndre Williams led the way in rebounding with 8, in addition to his 8 points. 3 of 5 from the field. Tyler Harris was 3 of 6 from 3. DeAndre Williams had 2 threes, 3 double-digit scorers, and then 2 that started, and then 2 off the bench. Minot, by the way, also added 6 rebounds and was 5 of 6 from the floor. Memphis was very efficient from the field tonight, 53.4% from the field, 7 of 17 from 3, 12 of 15 from the free throw line, 38 points in the paint, 30 points off the bench. So a very balanced effort tonight from the Tigers. Memphis with the season sweep. This is, this does go back to what Bearcats Prime said last week, that John Brandon single-handedly ruined the program. I don't believe he single-handedly did, but this program a few years ago was at least accustomed to beating Memphis once, and in most years they did end up splitting this or sweeping the season series. Now they're getting swept by Memphis. This team just does not have a true alpha dog to lead them. They don't scar and scare opponents. They fall behind way too much, way too early. And yes, they clawed their way back in this game. Yes, they were competitive. But it's hard to watch. They're the same team every day. They'll play hard. They'll make threes. Jeremiah Davenport will go electric. It's for a spurt. But they don't have the sustainability for 40 minutes like other teams have had in the past. And it showed last night. Wichita State tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Temple on Sunday, 2 o'clock. And we'll have more on Luke Fickell this week. We'll continue the men's basketball conversation and where this team is going from here, because I don't know. I do know that is going to do it for me here on Locked On Bearcats for today. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Frankie_90 with 2 N's, NNATI. You can also follow me on Instagram, AlexFrank9_, and email me at alex3frank@gmail.com. That's Alex, the number 3, Frank, all lowercase at gmail.com. Once again, thank you for making Locked On Bearcats your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. Until we talk to you tomorrow for Locked On Bearcats, I'm Alex Frank. Have a great rest of your Wednesday.